Soulful shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some soulful shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can pull that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thugs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
What's going on, people, man? We're back in the building. Hope everybody is blessed. Hope everyone is doing well. Obviously, we're just here to do a quick match reaction for the England game where they defeated Ireland 2-0. It's the first time in a long time that they've actually defeated Ireland at their ground. So, you know, records being broken, etc., etc. Guys, please make sure, of course, as per usual, you're smashing the like, you're sharing, and you're subscribing to the channel. Now, as I said, of course, it was 2-0 to England. One of the things, obviously, we saw, you know, this is Lee Carsley's first game. I'm not going to get into the semantics, by the way, about the whole singing the national anthem thing. You can take from that what you want, but I think one of the things that we saw, obviously, in terms of the lineup was that I was actually pretty close. If you go back and watch my match preview, I was really close. I actually think the only player that I didn't put in, I think, if I'm looking here, I believe the only player I didn't have in was Jack Grealish. I think he was the only one. I think he was the only player in there. So I think I picked everybody else. Of course, we had Levi Colwill starting off at left back, as I thought he would, just because, of course, you know, if you're going to put him in the team, if he isn't going to start in at centre back, he'd probably be your best bet for that left back position. Trent Alexander-Arnold was obviously in there. Mark Guéhi, Harry Maguire. I thought they would go with that. Midfield of obviously Kobe Mainoo, Declan Rice in there. With obviously Grealish playing in that pivot, with Gordon on the left, Saka on the right, and of course Harry Kane. So yeah, I think it was just Grealish. So I'm kind of happy that I was relatively close. So yeah, so clearly me and Carsley are thinking the same way. It's just that attacking position. And I think, to be honest, if Jude Bellingham was there, I think I would have picked him, you know, to potentially play in that Jack Grealish position. Now, obviously, you know, speaking, you know, of Grealish, because I think that was the, like I said, that was the only position that I thought, I don't know who he's going to actually play there. I think I might have put Eze in there potentially. And Eze, of course, did come on, you know, later on in the game. But even just looking, you know, of course, Declan Rice and, you know, Jack Grealish, what a coincidence that they would go out and score against Ireland. Very ironic, but it is what it is. That's just how football is. Sometimes these kind of things happen. But I think, you know, when we're looking, you know, at someone like Jack Grealish, and obviously this is the sequence for, you know, his goal in terms of the passing and the moving. When we're then talking about the way that, you know, Lee Carsley wants to play and how he wants things to be kind of set up, would I say it's better than Gareth Southgate's? Obviously, it's only one game. So, yes, it looked somewhat better in terms of the football that England were trying to play, the passing, the moving, some of the players, their positioning and stuff like that, which we'll, of course, we'll take a quick look at as well. I would like to see, of course, listen, we've still got, as I said, Jude Bellingham, you know, to come back into the squad. So I would love to see how his role then looks in the same position. But Jack Grealish himself, I thought he played reasonably well in the game. I felt like he was linking up well. I felt like, you know, dropping deep whenever he needed to. He was finding pockets of space. He was drifting out wide. He was floating in and around. And of course, that then helped him, you know, for his goal. Yeah, I felt like he played a pretty decent game. Of course, you guys can see, you know, some of the stats here from Grealish in the game. You know, ground duels, he was pretty good at those in the game. Passing 88%, key passes into the game, you know. But yeah, as I said, it was more about his positioning, you know, within the team. And I think that's what I kind of focused on, you know, quite a lot. You can see here, obviously, number 10 there, Jack Grealish, but you can see the pockets of spaces that he was picking up was in that kind of left half space. And again, that's funny because that's kind of what you would, I guess, deem, you know, Anthony Gordon's position to be. But you know, we saw with Gordon, he was making those runs. He was, you know, trying to get in behind, which then allowed for someone like Jack Grealish, who predominantly will, you know, for Manchester City play out there on that left, being able to float around and have the kind of license to be able to do so, I felt like was pretty good for someone like Jack. And yeah, I thought it was pretty calm, in the game. Declan Rice, I also thought he had a pretty decent game as well. 3 key passes in the game. Dribble attempts pretty good, ground jewels pretty good as well. Yeah, I think all round again, he was another one who had a pretty good game in his positioning, and you can see he was kind of playing this more like right central midfield, but again being able to get up and down, then help out with the attack, sometimes creating that overload on that right hand side, sometimes being a threat in and around the box, and of course him getting that goal. Those are kind of things that he can do. That's why it was I guess obviously this is all too, a couple of years ago anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But the profiling of Declan Rice, I think, is an interesting one because, of course, international and club football is always going to be different, especially if the manager doesn't really play. They play similarly, but you know what I mean, in terms of the manager will obviously at your club level has more or less, more often than not, should I say, have a different way of playing than the international managers do, especially under Gareth Southgate for someone like Declan Rice. And you can see here, again, having a bit like Jack Grealish, it is about having that license to be able to, I wouldn't say roam as much, obviously, as a Grealish, because Grealish is further up the pitch, but just being able to get forward whenever he needs to get forward. Do you know what I mean? But still having that kind of midfielder's presence of mind to understand that, okay, I can get forward whenever I need to get forward. And again, as I said, creating those overloads on that side. But at the same time, I am going to help out in the midfield. I am going to help if maybe Mainu wants to go forward a little bit, or, when Trent was inverting, maybe there's times when I might just sit just a little bit to kind of just help out so that, we're not left, with no one, kind of helping the defense out when, if Ireland then get the ball and then are, on the attack. But yeah, listen, all in all, I felt like Declan Rice, he was one player that I looked at in the game. And, again, with the way that, Lee Carsley was using him in this game, like I said, it's just going to be interesting to see when Jude Bellingham does obviously come back, because he will come back into the England setup. Because I felt like with Jack Grealish, Declan Rice, and Kobe Mainu in there, I felt like it was kind of a good mix and blend, with the players. I'm not saying you can't rotate. I'm not saying you can't swap out this player for that player, and different players are going to offer different strengths, of course. But I did feel that that kind of combination, of those players was actually pretty good. Levi Colwill, again, he was another one that I looked at, just because before the game, Colwill obviously being with Carsley before winning the under-21 championships. Again, as I said in my preview, didn't really have the best of time for Chelsea last season, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, who did other than Cole Palmer? Fair enough, but ultimately, factually, he just didn't have a really good season. He didn't even have a good season, if I'm being honest with you. It's kind of a poor season by the standard, and maybe that's just more by the standard that I set for him. But I had a feeling that he would play in at left back just because of the balance. Now, I've seen, but obviously, listen, in terms of his game, in terms of what he can offer you, he is more of your, he's not like some marauding fullback, he's not going to get up and, start playing fantastic, delicious balls into the, but like, he ain't going to do none of that kind of stuff. But what he is going to do is defensively, he can be quite solid. Obviously, he's got a good left foot on him. He can pass the ball. He's comfortable in possession. Obviously, playing at Brighton for that amount of time as well, understanding about putting your foot on the ball sometimes and waiting for that, the right time to pass the ball. He's good at doing all that kind of stuff. And I think even in a game like yesterday, I felt like it was just really as simple as he just added balance. To me, that's just the way I looked at it. He was just adding balance to the team, something that I felt that, of course, we kind of lacked during the Euros, where you then had to start thinking about, okay, we might need to play a different kind of system to obviously utilize the players that we do have. Could he have done something differently? Yes, of course. Hence why then Luke Shaw had to then come back into the fold, because you could see that England just did not have balance on that side. When you've got a right footer playing on that side, unless he's very comfortable using his left foot, and more often, well, I'd say more often than not, but most of them are not, because it's not your stronger foot, you're always going to keep cutting inside, which then kind of creates this, easy passing or easy interception lane for the opposition to then say, well, he's always going to cut him. Do you know what I mean? So we don't necessarily have to worry about that threat on the left-hand side. And then when you're not worrying about that threat on the left-hand side, that player now, whether it's Foden or Anthony Gordon in this game, for example, they become quite null void, but then that's where you then need the other pieces, within the squad to be able to enable you to potentially utilize, those kind of players. And that's where Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, comes in. Now, Trent, in his role, look, 2 key passes in the game. That pass he played for Anthony Gordon, absolutely delicious. But it's crazy because, obviously, Liverpool fan, we see this all the time. I'll be so honest, like that wasn't even his top 5, or I was going to say top 10, but I'd have to rifle through them. But it definitely wasn't even his top 5 passes I've seen in the last year. I'm trying to say that was just, oh yeah, typical. Like, because you know what he's going to do, because you know that he can do these Hollywood kind of balls. I'm just like, yeah, that's Trent. But again, this is what you would want to have him in the team for, is for those kind of things. Now, you can see here with his heat map, inverting. That's what Trent was doing quite a lot, in the game, inverting, but also trying to help out every now and again. I wouldn't say he was necessarily bombing forward. I didn't get that vibe from watching him. I know the heat map says obviously he was up and down, of course, that right side, right? But yeah, I wouldn't say bombing forward. I wouldn't use that for Trent's performance. I would say he was more inverting into that kind of double pivot, position. And from when I was seeing that, I was like, okay, that does actually make sense, because it depending on how you're going to play, of course, right? And listen, players like Saka, I wouldn't say he didn't have a poor game or anything. He was just okay. He was all right, kind of thing. But again, it doesn't matter, to be honest with you. As long as you can get the victory and whatever is best for international, especially international football, whatever is best to get the result, that's all anybody actually cares about, and that's what you should care about. It isn't necessarily about getting certain individuals. No, it's just really about what's going to help out the team. And of course, people will then refer back to, Gareth Southgate and kind of misprofiling him, misusing him, especially in the Euros, playing him in that midfield position. I kind of understood why you would want to do that, but I think from what we've seen, especially with Liverpool this season as well, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, listen, man, just play the guy in at right back. If you then want to invert, then do the inverting thing. Just do that. But of course, when England do then invert, like I said in my preview, you've got Levi Cole, Harry Maguire, Mark Gay. You've got 3 comfortable centre-backs in their positions to form a back 3. Left-sided, central, right-sided centre-back. It makes it a lot more comfortable. And then you've got players like Harry Maguire, who I said before in the preview, is comfortable on the ball, can pick out a pass. He is a decent player at that, in terms of ball playing, defender. Of course, let's not, think about all the bad stuff he has done before, but it is just more about, in terms of what he can offer you on the ball. So, yeah, I think, in terms of the way Carsley, kind of set up in that, would I say, somewhat 4-2-3-1 kind of, would I say, system. Yeah, you can kind of see here, yeah, look, for your 4 centre-backs, your 4 defenders, obviously Trent in that kind of doing the Trent thing. And then you have got those 3 midfielders, 3 midfielders, but Jack as the further forward, Kobe Mainoo, and then Declan Rice in there. Harry Kane, and I said I might do a video on this just to take a look at it, but Harry Kane again doing the whole dropping deep thing is so annoying at times. Like, I don't think he had a good game yesterday. I'll be honest. Like, you can say it was better, maybe, but I just don't think he had a good game. I didn't look at that and think, yes, Harry Kane looks better in this system. I just didn't see it, man. I really don't see it. And that's a question for people in the comment section. Let me know. How do you get the best out of Harry Kane, first and foremost? And do you think, and obviously I don't know, and I'm going to take a look and I'm going to do some research behind who else is coming through as an English striker, who would be the best type of English striker right now, anyway, not of the past, right now, to be able to fit into this type of system. Obviously, we have got Jared Bowen, Ollie Watkins. Obviously, Tony wasn't included for this squad, but I don't know whether he would ever get included again, kind of thing. But let's just say you've got all of these kind of guys. Is there anybody else, within that, who, that we might look at and think, hey, maybe this guy might be a better fit just for the team? Because I just think that, listen, Kane is Kane at the end of the day. The guy will get you goals. That's what Kane does. It's weird. It's so weird having this kind of conundrum with a player, and it's only really at international level. It's not necessarily at club level, because club level they play more towards his strengths. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like the style of play at both clubs, both Spurs obviously before and Bayern Munich now. Obviously they've just started under Vincent Kompany, but under both teams they played more towards his kind of game and his kind of strengths. But if you're not really doing it, I know Anthony Gordon was, running in behind, and of course we saw that for the goal, right? But I just think that you don't need Kane in these kind of positions. Like Kane's number 9, but you're next to Jack Grealish, who, you know, you still got Kobe Mainoo, Declan Rice in there. Like, you don't need all of these players in there sometimes. Sometimes I don't really understand what is the benefit of having you there in that position. Like, I don't see any benefit of you being there, bro. I really don't. You're not offering me anything in that position. So why are you here? Do you get what I'm trying to say? We want you in the box. Trent played a decent ball into him. He got that header off. Now, obviously, it's a hard chance. I'm not saying I don't expect him to score, by the way, from that kind of angle. But that's where we want you, is in the box, bro. Because in the box, Jesus Christ, you know, there's not many people you want in the box than Kane. There really isn't. And I almost just think that because of, listen, Kane's got so many good things he can do, but then on the flip side, he's got things that he's quite limited at doing, you know, in terms of taking on a man and stuff like that. Cool. I'm not saying you have to do that. He's not fast, you know, can't run in behind, all of that. Okay, I'm not saying he has to do that, because he's got his strengths, and his strengths completely outweigh, you know, in terms of for a striker, they completely outweigh, right? But in the things that he's limited in doing, I'm just like, so why are you dropping deep? We don't, like, honestly, we don't need you there. You're not, I don't even know, man. You're not Rooney. You're not, you know, those kind of players like Suarez, or I'm trying to think of like a striker who used to always like just drop deep to get the ball. But Rooney's one that pops into my head. So you're not these kind of players, right? So if you're not those kind of players, bro, we don't need you here, man. We honestly don't need you here. Just play further forward. Be the guy on the end. Be the guy that when we do get, you know, for example, I know obviously Jack Grealish obviously scored the goal, right, with a nice little sequence of play there, you know, with that 1-2 Declan Rice, and I think it was Bukayo Saka, I want to say, was the main, might have been mainly, I can't remember, one of the two, playing that nice little, you know, 1-2 and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all great, but I want Kane further forward. I want Kane in and around the box, and that's just something that just absolutely annoys me when I watch Harry Kane, because it's not like we're watching a striker that you're like, this striker's not even that good. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because then you might be able to understand a bit more, like, oh, okay, well, he's not really that good, so, you know, fair enough, and blah blah blah. But we're talking about one of the best English strikers of this generation, and we're just, yeah, honestly, that again, I'll do a video on that, and that's just his own conundrum. But in terms of, you know, Lee Carsley in his first game in charge, listen, it went well. 2-0 away victory, especially to your rivals as well. You know, you can't really complain. You can kind of see what he's trying to do. I think obviously Gomez came on, Morgan Gibbs-White, they obviously come on, so it's good for them to get like their first kind of taste at senior international football. Gomez looked pretty comfortable, you know, calm. It's interesting because I haven't watched Angel Gomez for time, you know, and that's why I was so surprised when he did actually play in that kind of double pivot, you know, role when he for Lee Carsley in the under-21s, because I was like, right, okay, is this where he plays? Like, I'm sure I used to see him, well, Manchester United youth days anyway, and then he played a couple games here and there, but I thought he played further forward. But clearly he's got strengths in playing in that deeper role, right? In terms of just popping the ball off and etc. etc. Gibbs-White obviously playing in that kind of number 10 position. Again, he's got his strengths, so it's going to be interesting to see how he could potentially, you know, fit into that kind of mold. So yeah, a lot of interesting things in there. Be good to see, you know, England's obviously next game. Let's see how they kind of do in that game, in terms of who's he going to play and how they're going to kind of, you know, set up. I think they're going to have a potentially easier time in their next game. But listen, who knows? Who knows? Let's wait and see, you know, in that regards, because England, you know, never failed to surprise me, to be honest with you. So yeah, all in all, I felt calm game, decent game, good little football. It was good parts of the game, good football. So it's going to be an interesting, you know, kind of interim period, you know, for Lee Carsley. I mean, if they're not going to give it to him, I'll be interested to see what kind of manager they would like to then bring in if they're not going to give it to him. But let's wait and see, you know, in that regards. Let me know, of course, your thoughts in the comment section. Who was your man of the match? What did you like? What did you dislike about the game between Republic of Ireland and England? And I'll catch you guys on the other side. Peace.